Hello again, John Robertson, your volunteer Oscar librarian, back with part 5 of Beyond the eForm Generator, which would work out to part 9 of the series starting from the beginning of the eForm Generator. Today, I'm going to look at how to put ticklers into an eForm. Now, at the recent OscarCon, I was asked how to do this, and I promised that I would create a video, so here we are today. Right now, I'm in the Oscar Galaxy page called Advanced Examples, so eForm Magic Advanced Examples. And if I scroll down the side here, ticklers generated by an eForm shows up here. And that jumps me down to the base code that we use to create a tickler. I've gone a little bit beyond that with the example that I'm going to show you today, but this base script here is going to be needed, and then these hidden inputs have to go into the body of the eForm. We're going to go over to my Notepad++, and I'll show you where the code is in my eForm. I just recently made a eForm to refer to the BC Cancer Agency, and all of the new code is in here. So this is my referral form for the BC Cancer Agency. The background is from 2023, so the eForm is labeled BCCA Patient Referral Form 2023. This here is the JavaScript to set a tickler. And it's got code here to figure out days and months. If we scroll down a little bit here, this is looking for a patient ID so that it knows who to assign the tickler to. And then I've put in tickler assignee. This is for the care provider. And then they've picked up a tickler date from the code above. And the tickler message I've created here is specific to the BCCA eForm that I made, but you certainly could put something like check results on. But the tickler message here is going to go right into this spot here. And so send tickler patient ID is this bit, and then tickler message, and then user ID is this assignee and the tickler date. It will complain if the tickler reminder is blank. It will also complain if the tickler has failed. So for instance, if I assign it to someone and they don't have an ID in Oscar, then it will fail. If we scroll down now to the beginning of the body of the eForm, and we look at the hidden inputs, I've put in some hidden inputs for tickler generation, and there's the patient ID. There's the tickler assignee. I also put in doctor provider number and current user ID because I created some code so that you can pick between whether the current user is going to be the one that gets the tickler or whether the doctor as designated in their demographic is going to be the one to get the tickler. The other thing that I did do in the header, if we scroll back up, is in my defaults, I've chosen the assign current to click, and this assign current, as we'll see further down in the code, assigns the tickler to go to the current user. Now, set defaults will run from the startup. The startup shows up at the beginning of the body in onload. Startup picks set defaults. Set default looks to see if this is a new form. And if it is a new form, then it will assign the tickler to the current user. If we scroll down now closer to the bottom of this eform, we'll see that we've got code here for the tickler reminder. So we've got some code to choose the tickler date. We've got a few options built in here. So 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 16 weeks are all built in, and you can choose those. If you choose 4 weeks, then it will uncheck 8 weeks and 16 weeks by saying check equals false. The same is true for the other choices. The tickler message, you can add something to the tickler message if you wish to. So if you feel that the standard tickler message doesn't have enough information in it, say you want to say what type of cancer it is, it's a bowel cancer, it's a thyroid cancer, then you can add that to the tickler message. And then here we have assign current, which I referenced in the defaults. So assign current is a checkbox. And then tickler assignee value will be the current user if we assign current. So if we go back up here to my hidden code, the tickler assignee is the input that the tickler code is going to use to decide who to send the tickler to. The current user and the doctor provider will pull out whoever is the current user opening up the eForm and whoever the doctor is for this patient. And then we can pick which of these inputs is going to be assigned to the tickler assignee. So that's why I've created assign current means the tickler assignee will be the current user, and assign doctor will mean the tickler assignee is the doctor provider number. And that way we can choose either of those. If we then have a look at our eForm, this is our new eForm. The old one looks the same except it doesn't have the stuff on the side here. The new one now has a spot to put the reminder date in, and we can choose 4 weeks and that'll put a date in. If you want to, you can type the date in yourself. It has to be year, month, day, but you can also choose 4, 8, and 16 weeks. You can add additional information here. When we first open up the eForm, it default assigns the tickler to the current user, but if you decide that you actually want to assign it to the provider, then you can choose that instead. You have to click the Set Tickler button, and when you click it, then the tickler will be created. Now I'm going to go into my Oscar just to show you a little bit of how that works. So I've jumped into my Oscar, and in Oscar, I've picked a test patient. If we look in the demographic of this test patient, we'll find that the MRP is actually not me, and that's why I chose this particular patient. If I go into eForms and I choose this new eForm, it's already automatically assigned the tickler to the current user, which would be me. We can put, if I set tickler without putting a date in, it'll complain that it's not the correct date, but it did assign me a tickler. Now, let's change our mind and assign the tickler to the provider and the demographic. And set the tickler. And now, if we go back into the patient's chart and refresh it, we'll see that we have a couple of ticklers now. So let's go into our ticklers. And the first tickler I made, the top one here, was assigned to someone else. But the second one I made was assigned to me, and it gives me this message: confirm the BCC appointment by the tickler date. Of course, there was no tickler date in here. We'll delete these because we don't need them anymore. We know that we can either assign it to the provider in the demographic or the current provider. And we will go back to the eform, and we'll put ovarian cancer in here, and we'll assign it to the current user, me, and we'll set the tickler. And so now it doesn't have any error messages. And then if we go back into the patient's chart and we check on ticklers again, it was assigned to me. Confirm BCC appointment by tickler date, ovarian cancer. So the extra piece is in there now. The other thing quickly I just wanted to show you is if you try to assign a tickler to a patient's provider and there is no assigned patient's provider, you will get an error message and it will tell you to make the tickler manually. So I'm going to go into a test patient that doesn't have a provider assigned to it, and we're just going to show you that. And now we are in a different test patient, and if we look at their demographic, we'll see here that there's nothing in here for MRP. So now if we go to this patient and we pull up my new eform here, and let's do all the right things. Let's put a date in. Let's put thyroid cancer in here, and we'll assign it to the provider in the demographic. And we'll ask to set a tickler. And it'll give me an error message that the tickler failed. Please create the tickler manually. So you do not have a tickler at this point in time, and you need to create the tickler on your own. And the reason in this particular case is because there's actually no provider in the demographic. So just to recap, let's go back to my Notepad++. I have code in the top of this eform. In my startup code, I ask to set default. In my set defaults, I have assign current and click, so it will click to assign the current provider, the current user. And then if we go down, we can look at the tickler, and this is all in the BCCA referral 2023, so you can pull all of this out of there. And if you want to change the message, you can change the message right there. And we'll go down further, and we need to remember that we have some hidden inputs. And the hidden inputs I have are the patient ID, the doctor provider number, the current user ID, and the tickler assignee. And then the actual code, which I placed at the bottom of the eform, is for setting the tickler reminders. Now, again, as I've said in previous, we do have do not print here so that it doesn't print up on the eForm when we go to print it out. We've given you some choices. Now, 4 weeks is 28 days, and 8 weeks is 56 days, and 16 weeks is 112 days. So you can custom design these if you wish. And then the tickler message, you can add extra to the tickler message. And then those two assign current buttons or assign doctor buttons. There's a reset button here and then the tickler button. That is my overview of ticklers. Hopefully that was helpful for you. Once again, it's your volunteer Oscar librarian signing off. Bye for now.